That's one item. Another item people don't think about, I have a colloidal silver generator. And I know you guys talk about colloidal silver on the air. I've heard your ads.
Yep.
And so that's like a pharmacy in a jar. In other words, it runs off batteries, or I've got a charger so I can plug it into 120 volts if that's running, or otherwise it can run off batteries and use a solar charger. And that allows me to build an ionic colloidal silver solution that's toxic to all known pathogenic bacteria and non-toxic to human beings. Now, if you've got a strep throat and you can pop a pill and it works, then that'll work faster than your colloidal silver. But I tell you, if you've got antibiotic-resistant strep, you got methicillin-resistant staph infection, MRSA, you got antibiotic-resistant TB, extreme drug-resistant TB, you can put that silver in there and breathe it through a nebulizer, and it'll knock that stuff, and the pharmaceuticals won't. So, right now, I read an article in the New York Times, and they're talking about nanoparticle silver everywhere. They're using nano silver in all the wipes and on the floors all over the hospitals. Now they're worried that some bugs will become resistant to silver. Well, if hospitals are using silver as a last resistant for antibiotic-resistant superbugs, don't you want it for your family? I mean, come on. If they're using it, why can't I use it? So I bring that with me wherever I travel.
Well, it makes sense, and we all have to be responsible, especially caring for our loved ones, and we all have to be responsible and be prepared for any situation. What I thought was interesting, I was wondering if you could elaborate on or tell the audience about the pit in the stomach exercise.
Now this could be the most important thing you get in this show today. This is an incredibly important thing. Now, think about it. The rational mind is only as good as the information base it has to draw upon. So in order to make a really good rational decision, you have to have information. Now, in a disaster, you rarely have very good information at your fingertips. So you're trying to figure out, do I go this way? Do I go that way? What do I do? So I'm going to use a real-life situation. There was a well-known, well-loved guy from the Bay Area, popular in the media, James Kim and family. They'd gone to Seattle and visiting people on a Thanksgiving holiday, and they were headed back to San Francisco, driving down the Central Valley of Oregon, Highway 5, missed their exit in the middle of the night. They were supposed to be staying at a hotel in Gold Beach on the coast of Oregon. Well, they looked in their map and they thought, oh, there's a shortcut. Let's take this back road because it'll be 4 in the morning by the time we get there if we got to backtrack. So they take the shortcut. It's snowing. It turns out they got off the shortcut, which would have been closed anyways, further up from the snow. They got totally lost. They said, scared. They went to sleep, said, we'll figure it out in the morning. Woke up, snowbound in the morning, middle of nowhere, out of cell phone range, didn't know what to do. So here's the pit of the stomach. You don't know what to do. You can't figure it out with your head. You don't have the information. There's an inner compass that Mother Nature built into every single one of us. Each and every human being has it. The beings that didn't have it, it's in your DNA. They got popped in the pot. They died in the battlefield, whatever. The saber-toothed tiger got them. Okay, so you can't figure it out with your head. You know you can't trust the head when it's changing its mind every minute. 1 minute it says do this, 2 minutes later do that. Then it's like, wait a minute. I can't trust this. It doesn't know. So I've got to get in touch with this inner compass. So that's when you go ask, if you're spiritual, you offer prayer, Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, I don't care. It's whatever your personal connection is. If you're not spiritual, just say, please help me. You take some deep breaths. You're going to be feeling, not thought. You're going to be using feelings in the body instead of thinking in the head to bypass the rational mind. So you take some deep breaths until you can feel the center, the dantian, right here, between the bottom of the rib cage, right above your belly button. You got to feel that knot in your stomach relax. Keep breathing deeply. It might take you a while if you're freaking out. Keep breathing deeply till it relaxes. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go in pictures. So first, this is the guy in the river. He says, well, okay, he's stuck. He's in the middle of nowhere. The thought is the rational mind says follow the river. That's like the rule of survival. Now rules are just general guidelines. They're not always right. So, should I follow the river? So pit of the stomach, you breathe, you make a picture of yourself in your mind hiking down the river. Now all of a sudden, you feel that stomach. If you feel it tightened up into a knot, bad choice. It's not a good choice. It's like, whoa, I thought I was supposed to follow the river. That's the rule of survival, right? Well, okay, maybe I should follow the ridge. Maybe if I go up on the ridge, I'll see like some smoke from a fireplace in the distance in a house. I'll go that way. Or maybe there'd be a search helicopter or something like that. And so maybe I should go up on the ridge. So you breathe deeply and you relax until you get that pit of the stomach relaxed again. And then you make a picture in your mind of hiking up on the ridge and being on the ridge top. And if you feel a feeling, like an expanded, relaxed feeling, kind of a really good feeling, great thing to do. If you feel a queasy, sickly, yucky feeling or a knot in your stomach, bad choice again. So then think, well, wait a minute. I've been in my car 2 days and I've run out of food and I burned my tires. This is what James Kim did. You know, my 2 infant children are freezing. My wife's cold. We're going to freeze to death if we don't do anything. The mind says the chicken thing to do is to stay in your car. You got to go. You got to do something. Fight or flight. Okay, so, but then you picture in your mind and you picture yourself in your car, and if you get that feeling, it's like, oh wow, I got to stay in the car. Well, here's what happened. Heroic guy. He's not clothed for the snow. He's got tennis shoes on. He doesn't have warm wool or anything that'll keep him warm in the snow. He goes down. He follows the river like the mind says to do. He gets wet. He gets cold. He's found lying face down a half a mile from a hunting lodge that he could have broken into and gotten everything he needed, dead of exposure. Now, what happened to the family? Well, when he didn't show up where he was supposed to be, the father sent out a search party. He called up, he got people to trace the cell phone bumps off of towers. They figured out the rough part of the country he was in. They sent people out searching. They found the wife and the children in the car. They were cold, they were hypothermic, they were hungry, but they were okay. Unfortunately, not so for the husband. So I can't swear that pit at the stomach would have saved his life, but I personally used it to make choices. And sometimes it told me the exact opposite of what I thought I should do in my mind or what I wanted to do. And when we've all had that experience of listening to that inner voice and saying, oh, thank God I listened. And we have that experience of when we ignored it, and we got our you-know-what kicked, and we fingers burned, and we said, oh, if only I had listened to that voice that was trying to warn me, I could have saved myself all this grief. So we've all had that lesson, and this is an important tool that can help you when the chips are down and when you can't figure out with your head what to do, can help you to shut that mind off, get in touch with that inner compass of spirit that simply knows what to do and can see around the corner and tell you where to go and what you need to do.
Well, I can tell you we are certainly happy to be carrying your books now on the INFOWARS.com website. And, right here I have Alex Jones, his personal copy of When Technology Fails. And let me tell you something, he's got about every other page marked, you could tell he's highlighted different pages and what have you. This book has been well read, and now you've come up with a smaller, more compact version. And like I was telling you before we went on, my son was telling me he looked through this. We have our own disaster kit, and he's 20 years old, learning how to be a survivalist, what have you. And he says, Dad, this book is perfect, to put in our kit. So so that's, I'm ordering this as well, or just walking back there and grabbing one. But so this will be included in our kit as well. So in closing, before we go, I wanted to go back and touch once again on the potential nuclear Armageddon, because I'm curious as what, if anything, is being done about this. Are the governments of the world, are they preparing for this? Are they just ignoring the problem? What can we do to escalate things to kind of, get them to move on this and try to do something about, total destruction?
Well, there's a SHIELD Act in Congress right now, and it's come close to passing, and there was a predecessor to that. I forget the name of that, EMP Act or something. And so the awareness is increasing, but we need to put pressure on Congress to pass it. See, part of the problem is the SHIELD Act is worded that it puts it on the back of the utilities, not the government, to fix it. And basically says, well, after a couple of years, if it costs you a lot of money and you can't get your money back, then come to us and you can petition and we'll help you out. So they got all their high-priced lobbyists lobbying the government to say, nah, vote against the SHIELD Act. It's no big deal. Don't worry about it, because they're profit motivated. It's money out of their pocket to pay for preventative measures. There's no increasing the bottom line, unless, of course, Armageddon happens and then they'll say, oh, God, we should have spent that $2 billion. We're actually talking only roughly $1 billion to fix the grid, the critical items of the grid, to prevent them from burning up in a solar storm or an EMP. And we're talking about another $1 billion to provide backup fuel in EMP-hardened containers with spare parts like batteries and generators and critical parts to make sure that these nuclear power plants could get back up and running. So, and you've got a little difference, because an EMP, you know, an EMP and a solar storm are related but not the same. EMP, electromagnetic pulse, is when they launch a nuke up and it blows off, say, 25 to 150 miles above the planet, and it's a big electromagnetic pulse.
Yeah.
Well, there's an E1 effect, which is like speed of light, that happens in nanoseconds, like fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a blink of an eye. And that tends to fry microchips, and it tends to induce currents that can damage digital electronic control systems that are critical for keeping our power plants functioning, including nuclear, keeping our sewage functioning, keeping all of our industrial processes functioning, our communication systems functioning. And in EMP tests, they found that most of your personal electronics in your house will survive okay unless it's turned on at the time. And most of your cars will be okay. And pretty much 100% of the cars will be okay, except for the ones that are functioning. And about 30% of those, 15 to 30% of those might have issues and problems. About 1 out of 7 will tend to stall on the road. But the real problem is that all of the stuff connected with Ethernet cables, all the computers and digital control systems connected with long runs of cables that keep all of our industrial systems and infrastructure going, those are going to cook. And included in those, so that means in an EMP, not a solar storm, but in an EMP, those short-term effects could cause nuclear meltdowns to start happening in 15 minutes after an EMP. And so they're having the stuff on hand to do a quick change out, get those things rolling, get them running. That could be, life or death, and people need to be trained and know that right away. Now, solar storm, it doesn't have the short-term effects. The EMP has a short-term, it has an E2 effect. That's like 50,000 lightning bolts happening in a half a second. Solar storm doesn't have that effect either. But then the E3 effect of an EMP is a long, slow burn. That happens from about a half a second to like 15, 20 minutes, a half hour later. Well, in a solar storm, that long, slow burn can go on for 2 days to 5 days to a week. Who knows how long it might go? Recorded history, we had a 2-day event in 21 and a 7-day event in 1859. So, that's just giving you a sense of it. So they're related but not the same. EMP, much smaller area. Small nuke on a Scud missile, you're talking probably a 500-mile circle, certainly enough to fry New York City, Washington, D.C., most of the Northeast, shut down the stock exchange, and melt down, 10 or 20 nukes could start melting down. A big nuclear device, like they bought one on the black market from one of the failed states in the Soviet Union, managed to get a larger missile like something that Iran or North Korea had and blow it off really high above the planet. Then you're talking a 1,500-mile circle. You're talking Dallas, Texas, to Miami, and up to Quebec City. So you're talking 2/3 of the population of the United States within that circle, and you're talking most of the nukes in the United States within that circle. You're talking a pretty big, serious effect. Good news with an EMP, the rest of the world is still there to come in and help out and help rebuild. Bad news in an EMP is more stuff is cooked and more stuff is fried. So you could have, you don't know until it happens how many of those backup generators at nukes are going to survive the EMP and kick in, and how many of them will get cooked and won't kick in.
Well, let's hope something like that never happens, but we definitely got to be prepared for all three of those situations you just mentioned, because we do live in that time and age. Mr. Stein, I want to thank you for spending time with us today. Like I said, Alex Jones certainly loves your books. I recommend that everyone buy a copy, this Disaster Strikes is perfect for a disaster kit. And like I said, we certainly enjoy you sitting with us today, and I wish you a good day, sir.
Oh, well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope I've been able to help people out, and God bless, and go out and do your best. Thank you.
Thank you much. Well, that about does it for tonight's show. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back, Lord willing, about the same time tomorrow evening. Until then, God bless.